Here with Justin Hill, head coach at McNeese State baseball, who, like many coaches that are going through this right now, have gone through a dramatic shift in their season. Gone from the time of what it takes to get everything right, to do what it means, to get your season squared away, to all of a sudden in an instant gone. Justin, talk to us about what that was like.
Man, the packing list to go to Lamar is still posted on the board right now. There's so many layers of so many things that have happened in the last, 2 weeks now. From having a team meeting to, hey, make sure we got our packing list ready, to head to Beaumont, and then we're going to suspend, the next 3 weeks. I was in a team meeting on that, I believe it was Thursday. So we'd already canceled the trip to go for the next 3 weeks of conference. And it goes from doing that. And then by the time the meeting, in the middle of the meeting, we had the meeting at 3 o'clock. And I think you want to say it was around 3:12 when the NCAA put out the statement via social media that the College World Series was canceled. It was so authentic. It's something, as coaches, what you want to do is be prepared for anything, any moment, whatever. And you want to try to, when you get on the field, you want to make sure your guys are prepared for whatever. Nothing you can really do there isn't anything you do to be prepared for that specific moment. You've got to use resources and tools, and you got to be in touch with yourself there. I was honest with them. I didn't have any words for them. I didn't have anything other than I loved them. And we knew there was going to be something ahead of us, whatever it was, but we were going to fight like heck for them, whatever that meant.
Yeah, all of a sudden, you're thinking about going to Lamar and to play a game, and you're working on developing players' confidence, building them up, putting them in tough situations, to real-world tough situations, where you're looking at your seniors and the kids that have a chance to get drafted and going, well, we're done. And I know the NCAA has come out with some guidance, and there'll be probably some more coming, but what a surreal moment there to end your career in an instant without any fault or contribution of your own.
Yeah, no, when you sit there and try to compartmentalize everything, I couldn't even tell you what day it is. I didn't even realize it was still March. Because once you get into baseball season, everything's kind of blocked off into pre-conference, conference. Hey, when we get into April, May, you kind of go month to month and series to series and homestand. You kind of go through all those things. That's the way your life is lived. To get to the weekend, you got a midweek game, you got your off day, you got all those things. To all of a sudden, there's nothing. And I think the best thing that we have right now, there's a great book out there, and I understand the concept of it, and it talks about hope is not a battle plan. But right now all we have is hope, and there's hope for the seniors to be able to get that year of eligibility back. There's hope for, and look, the word has been probably as much as the word process has been overused, probably in your thing. The word unprecedented has been used and used and used. But that's where we're at. And, these kids, they're going to be okay. People keep asking, hey man, coach, how are you? How are the boys? They're okay. They're okay. They're dealing. And, I think the human spirit can handle a lot of things. Once you figure out what kind of freight train hits you, once you figure out what hits you, and then so it's just moving on. So all the skill sets and things that you want to teach these kids, and teach everybody that comes through your program, they're utilizing those. I think the hard part right now is we have to do it remotely, which isn't necessarily that big of a deal, but you go from 35 guys on your roster, and within a few hours you can be sitting across from somebody or doing something. You can take care of stuff, but right now everything is via email, text message, some type of app. Thank goodness for those. How blessed are we to have those? But it's just different, and I think we're all learning how to deal and to not just survive, but how to be productive during these times. And the kids are going to be okay. And how we always have these moments as a coach, or we always look back to when we have kids, we use stories as an example for try to teach life lessons and things. This is one of their stories, how they're dealing with it right now. This is something that how they're dealing with it, whether it be good, bad, whatever it is, productive, not productive. I wish I'd have done this better. Everybody going through this is going to they're going to tell their kids about this in some way. Their life is shaped by this, the same way 9/11 shaped me, in my senior year in college. I still remember where I was at. All our kids are going to remember where they're at. This is one of those moments in times where everything stops and there's a pinpoint. There's this tipping point of what's going on, and we don't know what's going to happen and what's going to happen, kind of going forward. But that moment has happened, and we're living in it right now.
I think you conceptualize that beautifully, because you also talk about hope. And at this point, when we don't know anything, all we have is hope. We're lost. And it reminds me of a brilliant book in my field, which I know a lot of people have read, called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And if you haven't read it, read it. And listeners to this, read it. He talks about how the human suffering is all around us and everything that we do. And as he was in his 30s, when he was interned at Auschwitz during World War II, and he was a professor of neurology and psychiatry at the time. And he looked around at the other prisoners some were perishing and some were surviving. And he said one of the things he noticed is the people who really lost it, if their physical body was able to hold on, it was when they lost it mentally. But he said what he found was the people who could maintain it mentally were the ones that could find purpose in their suffering. And he said what he realized is he started imagining himself teaching future medical students and future psychiatrists what the pain of suffering was and how we could sustain it, how prison guards and interacted with them. He found purpose in the suffering. And I think we have to look at the same thing as coaches right now, is that this is a defining moment for many of you. It's what I call catalysts. You guys are catalysts for other people. You're guiding your men because you're baseball, but you're also guiding their potential wives and their families through, a tough time, because baseball for them has often been their coping mechanism to get away from maybe stress and worries, and they can find solace on the field. That's been taken away, and now they're having to reconnect to themselves and figure out who they are and what's important and what's not. And hopefully that this virus slows down, but if we continue to have another month of suffering, what are we going to become? And hopefully what we become is continue to get better as humans and get back to a reconnected purpose here a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you just talked about is what people are going through. People are, most everybody, you're either living in the right now, or you're looking toward the future and where we're trying to get to, whether it be goals, when this ends, when the new, whatever normal looks like going forward. We don't know what normal is going to look like going forward, but how can we come out of this thing better? And I, kind of going back, the biggest challenge in all the things that are going through this is the social distance. The thing that we need is social distancing, but the thing that's hurting us right now is social distancing. And because you just want to be together. I mean, we're in South Louisiana, man. I mean, it's hard not to hug. Yeah. You want to get. I mean, there's nothing out of the ordinary of a recruit's mama coming in and somebody cooked something for you and you give them a hug and a kiss on the cheek. I mean, that's just saying hello, and it's just different right now. But at the same time, there are so many good things that are going out there right now. There's so many people. I think I posted something about somebody was at a Sam's Club, and the elderly lady didn't have something, couldn't find something, and the guy in the buggy behind him said, "Hey, you're welcome to that. Anything else in the buggy?" And that's a parable for us to, again, whether it happened or not, it's a parable of truth, and it's a parable of where we're at. There's so many good things. I've seen so many people. Look, there's not a Democrat there's not a Republican, there's not black, there's not white. There's not any of those things, because we're all going through something right now, and we're all going through the same thing. How it's affecting us is different. What we're doing and but I think just the challenge is going to be not being alone. And I think about with what you do, and I talked about this with somebody a little bit earlier today, was you worry about the kind of the residual effects of some things, of being disconnected, of depression, of anxiety, of those things that normally, I mean, you got counseling, you got things, but there's nothing like being able to get counsel from another person, whether they've been through it or whether they have the capability to go through it. I mean, hey, we can read books, we can do all those things, that's great, but you got to make it come alive. And I think that's just where we're at right now.
How are you doing that with your players? I mean, they went back to you probably have a pretty strong density in South Louisiana, but they could be across the street and you're still socially distanced from them. How have you kept them engaged? Because I know coaches, that's where we're struggling, is don't know what to do. I mean, there's no guideline for it. I'm sure there's recommendations, but what's right, what's wrong, what's inappropriate, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're in such a wait and see that I haven't tried to get. I didn't want to just give them something to give them something. I just one of the staples of our program that we talk about all the time. We're going to operate in the truth. We're going to, whether you like it, whether you don't, and we're going to tell you the truth in love. And a lot of the answer right now is I don't know. I've got a list of questions regarding academics, eligibility, all those different things. I got a list of questions that you don't have the answer to right now, but I know I need to get them at some point, whenever those answers are available. And, it's like the guys, I think I talked to somebody the other day, I think it was in a press conference where, the guys were up there lifting and hitting, and, were they getting any better? They weren't. I don't think they were getting any better. I think they were just, that's how they're dealing with it, how they were coping, as you said. And so, I mean, but as time has gone on, more guys have kind of gone home. They've gone back to their family where they can be together. And, so the only thing I would like to say I'm giving the guys a workout plan, but, a good workout plan has more to do with an end goal or where we're going to be. Man, I don't know if we're going to start team practice September 1st or if we're going to start it October the 15th. I know when I would like to, but we don't know if that's going to be capable. So right now we're just kind of trying to give the guys resources as much as anything. I try to do a wellness check with them, provide some humor a few times. I threaten the guys that, anybody who doesn't, acknowledge the receipt of the message, they had to room with a certain player, and so everybody kind of got a giggle out of that one. Shoot, even the guy that I told, he didn't want to room with himself. So we were trying to have some fun with it. But again, when I look back through those messages, I mean, I'm constantly giving them information, which is things are just constantly becoming more restrictive right now. And so, I'm sure they're not excited to see a message from coach right now. Right. Things aren't super good. So, but that's what I've got to do right now. I've got to communicate with them. We got to make sure and give them all the information. But then, following up, I got a good coaching staff that's, trying to stay in touch with those other guys too. And so we're just dealing with it as it comes right now. Yeah. I think is what we're doing.
I tweeted out something the night that everything started being canceled, and because I was on the road at a golf tournament, I was at the Players Championship, which is a massive they kind of rumored as the fifth major, but it was a real surreal moment to watch the NBA shutting down and Major League Baseball suspending, and then getting that text while one of my players was on the course. I'm like, dude, College World Series, and he's a Florida grad, so University of Florida Gators are rolling this year, right? And you see things, you work so hard and it's so special. And I tweeted this thought that, we always tell our kids that you should play like the game's going to be taken away from you, but it never really has, minus injury. Boom. It just got taken away from us. Do you think it's going to change the mindset of players when they go back on the field to go back out there with a little bit more joyous experience versus seeing it as a burden?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think, again, the further away you get from an event, people become desensitized to it. For example, again, going back to 9/11, but the kids that I have right now, some of them weren't even born when that
Yeah.
happened. So airport restrictions are the same. They don't know. I mean, it doesn't mean that those same feelings well up if you see, some of the news coverage, when those things happen. But I think you'll see that. I think one of the other challenges you're going to have right now is just because, let's say every senior that I have comes back, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Because they're older. Just because a guy was hitting 330 doesn't mean we're going to pick right up where we were at. I mean, it's a new team. 2020 is the baseball season in 2020 is gone. It's just like, it's almost like it never happened. It's from that standpoint. We finished with a 10-7 record. I mean, that's what our record was in 2020.
You're not gonna like that, are you?
No, I mean, there's nothing. But I mean, we finished up pre-conference. We didn't play one conference game. We got all kind of. I mean, it's all those different things, and but I think it does put some things in perspective, especially when you see pictures. It's funny. I was talking to one of our players. Unfortunately, I did exit interviews in March. I mean, that's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, it's just. But I showed him a picture that was posted, and I was having to take him out of the game, and he was struggling with command, and I said, think about where you were at in that moment when that picture was taken, and he could go back to it. And I said, where are you at now? And the ability to take perspective from that moment. So I think you're going to see all types of. I think you're going to see a lot of people take great perspective in this. I think you're going to see people's career and life and all kind of things really just vault. I think you're going to see leaders emerge, but I think you're going to see people kind of go the other direction based off that incident, based off that moment, but also based off of whatever time we have right now. The longer it takes, the more discouraged people are going to be. The more look, I don't think that the mindset is any different. Now, this is different, but the mindset is the same as a New Year's resolution. Everybody's in the gym that first week in January. That's why they make you sign a whole year contract to do that, because they know in November it's going to be scarce. That's why that's just, it's not going to be that way. So the longer we go, I think you're going to see a broader range of what type of impact it's going to have individually. That's just what we're going to kind of have to deal with right now.
What are the issues that you're having to go through from an athletic department standpoint? I'm not talking about confidential stuff, but I mean, some very strange conversations I'm sure are going on. I mean, continuity of care, for players that are receiving medical treatment or psychiatric treatment, but also, academics. Everybody went to online education. How do we maintain eligibility? How do we, how are we managing all? How's that being done in a university setting like yours?
Well, for us, I mean, it went to immediately from a head coach standpoint. We got directives from our athletic director, and who's the interim athletic director now, Tanner Steins. He's done a bang up job considering the circumstances. He's fighting his tail off to get the job, and it was, hey, let's figure out something to do. And so we had continuity across every program on what we were going to do, but then it was left to the head coach or each sport to figure out the system that was going to be in place. Our academic lab wasn't going to be able to, handle, every student. It was basically going to be spread out from 8 in the morning to 7 at night, and multiple days a week, kind of go through that. But when the directives came down, we gotta spread things out. So it went from a really easy plan that you could put in place because you were still going to use the facilities, be able to use your facility. Kids are going to use their laptop. There are all kind of things. And then it went to, okay, how many kids have laptops? How many don't? How many have internet access? How many don't? I can kind of speak from just the baseball side of it. We were using our facility for guys to be able to come in, and some guys who had done a good job grade wise, they didn't have to work. I mean, we were checking in with them. They just wasn't as strict. And it went from that to, we had to close the academic athletic lab. Now the one on campus still is operating, but it's kind of, everything's become a little bit more restrictive. But the kids have handled it well. Our coaching staff has. I mean, I see the updates, the email threads that we're going through. I'm learning a lot about the academic process and how it kind of happens now, what the screenshot looks like on the computer for the kids. And so you're seeing some things, and I hope to come out of this better in an awareness of what the kids are doing online and how that education is working for them. And but it, like I said, I mean, just the day in and day out, the not having that, I think that's probably the hardest thing.
How are you as a coach handling the emotional side? Because we can all put up the string face, we can put up the life that we want, but there's still an emotional burden. There's a liability that comes with being a coach. How are you handling that?
I'm dealing with it. How about that? I'm dealing with it. Went from everything taken away. What I say taken away, I mean, I don't want to be, shit. I don't want to, downplay what's happening globally and nationally. But in that moment, that's how it felt. It was just taken away from you. Till the next morning, you start to cope. You start to see, what do we need to do next? Which is the same mindset we have every day. If you lose a ball game, how do you fix it? If you win, how do we do it again? People don't realize sometimes that we wear a lot of hats. I wear the dad hat, the husband, the son, the brother, the nephew, the uncle, academic advisor, hopefully mentor, friend, all those different things. And so you're pulled in so many different directions with that. My wife owns a business locally, and obviously she's dealing with some things. We haven't had a lot of contact lately, other than, see her when she wakes up and when she gets home, and because she's trying to take care of her people, and making sure, and I understand that. It sounds crazy, but I miss my wife right now, and I'm about to see her a lot more, but I understand the separation, and she's trying to take care of a lot of people right now. My kids, I mean, I've gotten to educate them on a lot of things. We're trying to, as a parent, figure out, what all do they need to get? What do they need to learn? We want to keep them on a routine, all the different things you want as a parent. But then, you start to see how life's just different. They're going to remember this. And what are they able to learn from their dad? What are they able to learn from their mom on how you deal with things? And again, whether there's arguments, tensions, whatever's going on. But me personally, man, I'll tell you, this hit home for me. Somebody really close to me hadn't been feeling good, and they had to get tested for the COVID-19, and that was the moment that life just stopped. Everything stopped, and I was accepting and understood. I mean, I like to try to be well educated and well rounded on everything that's going on. Understand my place. I'm a baseball coach. We play baseball. We do more, but we're in the entertainment business from a baseball side. I get that. But right then, I was just a human being, and somebody I love we were worried, and that was the longest couple hours of our life. And you worried if there's testing, you worried all those different things. And I tell you what, you feel really powerless at that moment. Thankfully, that came back negative. That was a blessing from above, and reality check. Well, I won't ever be the same after that phone call. Both phone calls of having to get tested. Hey, everything's negative, and I'm doing okay. I try to be strong. Coach Bertman had the rock, the jelly bean, and the marshmallow story that you're well familiar with. You just try to, I'm trying to be a rock, man. Trying to be a rock best I can, but sometimes we fall, we stumble, we go through some stuff. And look, I'm just being real, man. I'm
Yeah.
just being real. And so it's hard right now. It's hard.
Well, and I think that's why I wanted to have you on is, you had your press conference that was streamed out, and it was a connection. I think a lot of coaches recognize that. And I think a lot of coaches are kind of stuck with what's right, what's wrong, what's the right thing to do right now. And, our mission is, we're all catalysts for one another. And if we can get out there and get in front of this, we can weather the storm, not because the storm, isn't letting down, but because we're rising up to it and being able to squash it emotionally. We're be able to manage the uncertainty. And I think more than that, we're going to have a joy when we go back out and get to watch a sporting event again and appreciate why we're doing it. And hopefully that will last longer than we think it will. I mean, I think most people will go, I can't wait to go back out. And the first time somebody doesn't throw a pitch across home plate the right way, we're going to be bitching and moaning about it, but it's true. I mean, the umpires are still going to suck. And,
I can't wait to yell at an umpire.
I know, can't you? It's like, thank God you're back, but God, you suck.
I know.
But it's going to be good. I want to thank you for getting on here. I know you have a 5:00 curfew, so get home.
Nobody's run me out yet.
Nobody's running you out. Well, listen, let's be a positive role model. And I want to thank you for this. And we'll stay in touch and keep going, right-hander.
You got it. Hey, that's funny. Hey, I appreciate what you're doing. You're making a difference. And because there's a lot of people going through a lot of different things. What baseball's going through is different than what basketball's going through. Is going through what's football and softball, and everybody's is impacted in a completely different way. And coaches, I mean, there isn't a playbook for this. I don't know if you've read the book by Tim Elmore, Marching Off the Map, but the concept of the title of the book is there isn't a map for this. We're drawing the map as we go.
Yep.
We may be wrong, so we're going to erase that and fix it. But we're doing those things, and I think it's important. I think it's great what you're doing to build for us to document this, to see it, what's happening. We're going to have there's going to be a footprint for this for us to see. There's going to be a roadmap to see where we went wrong, what we did right, and to be able to utilize these instructions, this guidance that we're having in the future.
Well, I mean, the brilliant philosopher Matthew McConaughey said it beautifully. There's a green light after this red light. And if you haven't seen that video, watch it. He, in his very strange way, he really does connect to what we need to be doing. There's going to be a green light coming again here soon. So thank you again for doing this, and wish you the best, and hope you have a good summer, and hope your kids stay healthy and come back. And we're kicking off fall ball, and hopefully maybe the NCAA will allow for some reason an extra coach to be on the field, and fall baseball. Maybe that will come out of this.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you, friend.
You got it.